Do you have anything else to add to a more positive note here, or is it just all gloom here in
Oh
Sacramento?
no.
It's raining out
Oh,
here. It's just sad.
yeah. I mean, I think kind of looking at the last 3 or 4 games, uh, it's been like we said, it's disappointing, but it seems fairly understandable, and there's never really a reason to worry about it. That Keegan Murray has not been very productive. Harrison Barnes and Rashawn Holmes continue to be a complete disappointment. But over these last 3 or 4 games, we've seen the exact reason why the Kings, picked up Malik Monk, and how good of a transaction that was to go ahead and acquire him in free agency. He just everything he's doing uh, has been effective. In the last 3 games, I think he's shooting 51.3% from the field, 40% from threes, averaging 19.3 points and 5.3 assists. And it's just, I think that's in the last 3. The 4 games ago in Charlotte, he had a really good second quarter where he came in and did his thing. He hit a couple of threes, distributed a few assists, attacked the inside to get something on the outside for somebody else, which, Fox does really well. And Monk seems to be kind of the second best guy at that on this team. And he does it without any hesitation every time he comes in. And you saw him do that in the second quarter, and he didn't really do anything in the second half of that game. In his return to Charlotte, where his old coach there, Steve Clifford, is back. But in the next 3 games, he certainly did not disappoint. He had I think, I don't remember what he scored against Miami, but I think it was 17 or 18 points. I think he had 15 against Orlando, and then he had 24 last night or on Monday night against Golden State. And again, it's just it's not just him shooting threes, and which he's streaky at, honestly, and everybody knows that he gets really hot really quick, and then sometimes he'll kind of fade away, and vice versa. But 2 things in particular: it's that distribution of the ball, his aggressive mindset to be able to go into the paint and swing it out and open things up and collapse the defense and open up outside shots for other guys or other opportunities. And, like I said, in the last 5.3 assists off the bench. I mean, it's just, that's fantastic. And defensively, at the beginning of the season, to make you feel better, Tony, because you may have said that Rashawn Holmes was going to exceed expectations this season, and that's not really panning out. You actually said it too, so I'm kind of piling it on you. But we both said because we've both felt like people were very high on Malik Monk, and I think maybe that more had to do with the fact that there was a pretty large camp that were no, Monk needs to start. And I think the reason I pointed to, but this is what I wanted to say, the reason I pointed to was, well, Monk is going to probably be one of the worst defenders on this team, and this season he's been remarkably good. And it never really seemed like he had that much trouble on ball on a guy. He's just 6'1", not extremely physically gifted in terms of size, but he always is solid there. It just seemed like his kind of engagement on the defensive end, his effort on the defensive end, sometimes was lacking. And credit it to Mike Brown, credit it to a reunion with De'Aaron Fox that maybe has lit a different fire under him, or a combination of different things. But he is played very well defensively, and it's been such a nice change because he's really playing like one of the best players on this team. And I think that's exactly what you want to see. You want him to be playing like that. He's such an exceptional scorer off the bench, such an exceptional distributor off the bench, and now he's such a nice steady force defensively off the bench. And he's adding to a second unit that I think is pretty sound defensively. I mean, I think they maybe not necessarily the second unit, but I think they're one of the highest defensive ratings for lineups against the Warriors I think it was like at the small lineup with Metu out there at the 5, where it was like Fox, um, Monk, uh, Terrence Davis, and then I don't remember who was playing the 4, but it just seems like there's so many options to go off of, and the fact that Monk is playing well defensively, it's so helpful, and it just that second unit maybe hasn't been as great as you want it to be because of Holmes' struggles, but I mean what Malik Monk is providing defensively is really, it's just added another fold to it that I didn't really expect, and I don't think a lot of people expected. But Malik Monk has just been playing like an absolute stud, and um, you know, he can really go in there and freaking put up some points.
Yeah, Monk has just been he started off kind of slow, I would say. Like, okay, like what's going on with Monk right now? Didn't score a lot as much as you think, but man, those last 3 games, or even that game against the Warriors on Monday, he looked phenomenal. Like you said, he's not just scoring the ball, and when that dude scores the ball, I love it. He's like a microwave. He just heats up. It's like I'm like that's going in, which has its downsides of if he's not on, he's not on. But man, he's fun to watch when he's on because he doesn't miss really. But like you said, he's also distributing the ball really well, which I really didn't expect from him. But he looks really good. He looks really good. I trust him with the ball. He's had several nice passes, this season so far. So that's definitely a plus as well. And like you said, he's not a liability on defense like maybe we thought he'd be, and that's huge. Um, and man, like he's just nice. He's a nice person to have off the bench. He's kind of like who you wish Buddy would have been off the bench last year, like just a pure scorer. Um, Buddy has his own issues, and so it's a
Yeah,
guy who can
completely different personalities.
completely different. Monk can hit the 3 with the best of them, and yeah, that facilitating it's awesome. And
The great thing about the distribution thing and the facilitating is it's just like when you watched him with the Lakers, you saw him handle the ball. You'd see him handle the ball in a pick and roll, but it would usually be setting up for himself. Like it's not necessarily him. I mean, he'll play in the pick and roll and be very effective, whether he's attacking the basket or getting a lob up or getting another kind of shot for himself, whatever the deal is. But it's just this. It seems like and you see it with like Terrence Davis, and maybe it's just something that they're preaching to these guys, but with kind of just when you get the ball, it's just he just attacks, and I feel like it always comes at a timely moment because sometimes that second unit will come in there and things will get a little stagnant, at the end of the first quarter and into the beginning of the second quarter, and it seemed like in these last 3 games, it just seemed like Monk getting in on the inside, or Monk setting up for another guy on the outside, or Monk even getting his own shot. It just seemed like the range of options, and he capitalized on all of them. And I think adding that element of being able to facilitate in any kind of other way, it just allows him to score better. It just he has so many more cards up his sleeve, and I just didn't really necessarily expect that. And I think it's just like, man, he really plays like a point guard. I mean,
yeah,
it's just it's incredible.
I'm surprised he's not a point guard. Like he's a shooting guard in the league, and I'm like, okay, like he's a shooting guard. He's a 6'1" shooting guard, probably because he's not the best, facilitator. And I'm like, okay, makes sense. So I didn't expect him to be doing what he's doing, facilitating the ball wise, and it's a very nice surprise. He's looked phenomenal over the last couple of games after I guess you could call it a slow start in the first couple of games. So Monk, I mean, I'm glad he's friends with Fox. It's kind of nice bringing in like a free agent because of connection finally, because that never happens in SAC. It's like, okay, like Monk had a really good year last year, and he was, him and Fox were friends before college and everything, and so it was nice to bring over like an actual asset, and he's really starting to show why he is that asset, and he's playing a lot of minutes. He's in the closing lineup. Or maybe, he's playing late in games and when it matters, and for good reason. He's like phenomenal.
Yeah, he's earned it, and I think one of the things too that's important to note is it's like when the Kings got Monk, it was basically like, okay, they're getting Monk, they're not going to keep DiVincenzo, And I was like, okay, you're getting a better shooter, a better scorer, maybe. Um, but you're hurting yourself defensively and in, I think, the facilitating thing. I thought that DiVincenzo is a far better combo guard than Monk. And so I think keeping that in mind, it kind of really underlines just how huge uh, Monk's production lately, and hopefully going forward, is for this team. Because even in the things that I thought they were going to lose by going with Monk, and I thought, going with Monk with the personal connections and what he can do kind of as a bench scorer, and take a huge, take on a huge load of offensive responsibility. I thought that that was still a really good pickup, but it's just like now it just looks great because even the weaknesses or what we thought were weaknesses or advantages for DiVincenzo, weaknesses for Monk, they're not even really that much of a factor because Monk has been so solid defensively and so great. I mean, like you said, he's playing like a point guard, and I don't know. It's just that's great. That's great to see for him and for this Kings team.
It is. It is. And I'm glad we can find, a positive after talking about, Murray, Barnes, and Holmes over the previous 30 minutes. But
I know that
Monk,
got really like
it, got-
it regressed into just deeper despair because it was like
it's,
Murray. It's like, okay, there's reasons there. It's like Barnes. Okay, it's not the end of the world. It's like Holmes. All right, it's looking kind of dire. It's like, all right, let's get back up to the surface here.